Guys, Ryan with Rigs of Death Metal here again. Today we're going to be checking out the Axehammer from Fowl Sounds. Let's hear it. Alright guys, you got to hear this both in a mix and by itself in a couple different ways. So we're going to chat about it a little bit. First off, the artwork is absolutely killer. I just got to point that out here. I'll throw up some B-roll. This is a collaboration between Fowl Sounds pedals, which we have featured Mike's work on the channel before for the TGB1 pedal. This is their collaboration with Greg Wilkinson, which if you're not familiar, we actually did a rig chat episode with Greg not too long ago. Notable for playing bass in the band Autopsy. I believe he's only performed on the most recent Autopsy record. I could be wrong on that, but he definitely produced the previous Autopsy album, which is tonally one of my favorites that they've ever done. And I do know he's produced I believe every Necrot recording, and those are just some of my favorite tones. Guitar, bass, drum, everything. Some of my favorite recorded tones in the last decade or two. Dude just has a phenomenal ear for tone, you know. As far as I know, this is a original design, just kind of tuned to Greg's amazing ears. It's definitely meant, basically, I know for bass with Autopsy, he was running the Rev G3 believe into an old Ampeg. I could be mistaken. I'll have to go back and watch the clip. But and then he also plays guitar in a band called Deathgrave, and I believe he has some other musical projects still going. I know he's been in a bunch. One of those guys is just constantly pumping out music, either writing or producing for other bands. But he wanted a distortion pedal that he could use for his various projects, namely Autopsy and Deathgrave, where he plays guitar. So in the demo you heard, as well as the isolated tracks, the full band mix, I did not add any post EQ or anything, which you could probably tell. I left the track pretty raw. So I used this distortion just into a straight up clean channel through the Kemper, but like the same as running it in front of an amp on its clean channel. And then bass, I did a little bit different. Using this on the bass track, there's actually a blend knob on here, which I'll go over the controls here in a second. I use the blend knob to kind of tweak between. I had a Sans amp for a more of like a very sub kind of bass low end, and got more mid range and distortion and even more low end out of the pedal, and just use the blend knob to kind of, to my ears, find a bit of a sweet spot. And then I did throw a limiter on the bass in post, which if you don't know what a limiter does, it's a more strict form of compression, I guess, just to kind of tame it volume wise. It doesn't color the tone or anything like that. It just keeps the loud notes from being too loud, and it makes the quiet notes a little bit louder. Makes everything a little bit more even keel volume wise. But enough about limiting. We'll go through the controls here real quick, and I'll try to throw this up on the screen if I remember. You have a 3-band EQ, which is pretty self-explanatory. A boost or cut for low, mids, and your highs. There is a knob called Grin, and that is just your gain. You can kind of go from kind of like a real dirty kind of hard rock, kind of thing, all the way to super grimy death metal. And of course, there is a blend knob just to kind of blend in between your clean signal before the EQ and the full sound of the pedal itself. Volume, I did have to, for the most part, I pretty much let the volume about at noon, because yeah, this thing was making my interface clip pretty hard if I went too far past noon. So a lot of, I wish I had, you know what, I do have a tube preamp. Probably should have checked that out. I would be very interested to run this in front of a real tube amp and see how hard you can push the front end. I did have a profile of a Marshall JMP, like kind of a crunchy tone, and threw this in front of it and just kind of tweaked back and forth with the volume and the gain. But yeah, not quite the same. You still have to really watch the inputs with all this digital stuff. You can't quite slam a front end like you can on a tube amp. So I'll probably do a follow-up with this, maybe just a random clip, just checking this out, like slamming it into maybe like the Hell preamp, something like that maybe. Something really handy on this, especially if you're wanting to use the well, this is actually strictly for use with the blend knob. There's actually a phase switch, inverts the blend 180 degrees. So if you are blending this with any other kind of amp tone, and you just need to mess with the phase, Perfect. Then it also has a punch slash bite toggle, little two-way toggle switch, and just changes the tonal quality of the distortion. Punch is darker, bright is brighter, which I actually left this on the punch setting, which surprised me because I normally go for much brighter tones, but I don't know, I was just really digging how this sound. And then the other two-way toggle is dense slash detail. Dense adds some compression, while detail offers more dynamics, and I left it on dense. I liked the compression that I got from it, both for guitar and bass. So I bet, I don't know, I did mess around with it some, and it is cool. It's one of those things where as soon as I engage the switch, I end up changing the EQ a bit more, and no, I just found kind of the sweet spot for everything to my ear with yeah, punch and dense engaged. I don't know, to my ears a lot of the tones that Greg gets are maybe a little bit darker sounding, I guess, compared to, I don't know, a lot of the 90s death metal stuff where everything's just crazy scooped and very, very bright and almost harsh. This has more of like, I know he's a big fan of like a Soldano Avenger, and you know, they use a lot of old Marshalls on some of their Necrot recordings, things like that. So that's just kind of what this puts me in mind of. And honestly, the track I kind of came up with reminds me of, I don't know, maybe some like probably some Morbid Angel, a little bit of Incantation, Autopsy kind of stuff. But yeah, I want to thank Mike over at Fowl Sounds for sending this out to us. Thank him and Greg both for coming up with such a sick pedal. This is as much as I love very tight, brighter, more percussive, like cutting kind of tones, something like Decapitated, or you know, Deicide. On the flip side, I love a very warm, kind of a little bit darker sounding, kind of like British amps, like a Marshall or an Orange or something like that. So this, to my ears, hits the other side of the tonal spectrum perfect for me, and that's about where I live about 50% of the time anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of use out of this, and I personally freaking love this thing on bass. I could see myself using this for almost all bass tracks because I really didn't feel like I needed to do a whole lot in post. Maybe y'all will differ on that opinion, but I thought it sounded phenomenal, and I'm looking forward to using this a whole bunch more. So any thoughts, comments, questions, etc., leave them down below, and I will hopefully have a link down in the description for this pedal. If not, then check back very soon after, because this is a brand new pedal. I'm going to try to time this for the actual release, but yeah, you guys scoop this up, whether you play bass, guitar, or both. This is a very, very handy tool for you. Well, that said, thank you, and we will see you next time. Peace.